Hello everyone, dragongamingkfgytoffical here. Today we are going over a game theory that I previously reacted to, which is the Bendy Fools Us one. And go check out the reaction to that. You probably don't want to, though. Just saying. Now, Elaine may be wondering, why am I going back to this? Even though I already reacted to it. There's no point to go back to it. I'm going to break this down and come up with good reasons why this theory is complete garbage. And that's I generally like Matt's theories. There's nothing wrong with a theory, whether it's confirmed or denied, as long as it's got evidence to back it up. If it's got bad evidence to back it up, then it's no. It should basically cease to exist. Now, when I originally reacted to this, and I should well, I'm not even gonna do that. Heck with it. But when I originally reacted to this, what ended up happening was that I got mad at some point during the video. I can't remember where, but it caused me to say the statement, quote, "Stay on your own turf," end quote. I think I put that in the title too, which I got a backlash from that, and looking back, I actually deserved that. Okay, I deserved it. You'll understand what I am referring to later down the line. Now, I'm going to shut up and we're going to analyze this thing, break it down, and I'm going to tell you, everyone here, where MatPat's flaws are. Let's get started. Although I do have to admit here, the intros to these videos are getting better. The theories themselves aren't. So, start writing down the theories themselves, okay?
That has gone crazy. He has us running the theory machine 24/7. He says he needs to appease the YouTube.
Alright, so Jim the intern is talking about how MatPat wants to run this machine 24/7 essentially, and pay attention to that detail because I'm going to mention it later, and it will collide with one other big pothole that MatPat runs into every single time in these theories. I don't know why, but as I said, these intros are not bad. They're pretty good. Just the theories themselves are just plain trash.
Whatever that means. The theory machine was never meant to sustain this kind of load. Things are bound to go wrong. I heard the machine say that Han and Leia were Rey's parents. I tell you, if we have one more researcher turned into an ink monster for a science video, I'm out of here.
And see, the intros are getting better. They're good, but the theories themselves aren't. I'm gonna turn that down because that's way too loud. I can't really hear myself over this. Good theory so far.
Welcome to Game Theory, where today it's getting a little sketchy. That's right, it's time to revisit the world of Bendy and the Ink Machine. Recently,
Okay, so revisit the world. You don't play this pretty often. That is a big flaw, and I'll point out why in a second, or next time it shows up. Plus, using sketchy was as a pun was just plain terrible. But I'm not gonna count you off on that. You're known for bad puns, and so am I.
Chapter 4, the penultimate episode of this 5-part series came out, and ooh boy, what a difference a few months made. Out went the exhausting series of fetch quests from Chapter 3, and in came stealth, mini-games, actual gameplay, a barbecue. What the heck is this? And not just one, but two boss battles. In fact, the game had a sing double everywhere. Double Alice, that is. After proving herself to be a little devilish in Chapter 3...
Wait for it.
Chapter 4 ends with Alice Angel finally getting her comeuppance at the hands of Alice Angel. What? Excuse me, what? Great question, me from the past. That's exactly what I aim to answer today. Now, obviously, the reveal of a second Alice Angel accompanied by a Mecha Boris was a huge twist that no one saw coming. But it was also the clue that we needed to figure this whole thing out.
Or is it?
All the time that we online have spent theorizing about Bendy, we've also been ignoring the other title character here, the Ink Machine. Specifically, how that Ink Machine works.
Okay, so I can already see where this is going from here. You're saying how it works. Well, in actuality, we've theorized how it works, and examples of how it works. We don't necessarily know how it really works, so using this as trying to use that as a good point, saying that you know how it actually works, is a pretty weak point. But, it's not really that.
The twist ending of Chapter 4, some hidden files in the game, and most importantly of all, changes to the first 3 chapters now that they've been remastered, we'll finally be able to piece together what's really going on in this game, and the surprise reveals that'll bring Chapter 5 to a close.
Alright, so as I showed, there was 2 Bendys. That theory I've already heard of before, but not 2 Bendy theory. But the fact that Henry could be Bendy. Now, that I've heard from Super Horror Bro before this, December of 2017, where he said it was really out there, but using files in the game, we don't see a file anywhere else, it would make sense where that's on Henry's face. Just saying.
Let's start at the end. The shocking reveal of Alice Croft and Mecha Boris. Watch everyone on YouTube play through this chapter, and we're all shook by this moment. What?
And the real Alice
And here's your big flaw.
He shouldn't have been. 2 Alice Angels.
Alright, so he's going to point out that 2 Alice Angels really shouldn't be surprising. Here's a good way to counter it. You want to know why this is really surprising? Not only does the whole chapter kind of just give us where transformation theory confirms and denies, but it also tells us something about Alice. The imperfect Alice, which is right next to his left, I guess, from his point of view. Prior to Chapter 4, a lot of theorists, including myself, had theorized that Chapter 3 Alice was not only a combination of Susie Campbell, but also Allison Pendle, the same, both of them being Alice Angel voice actors, or actresses. Now, this is really supported by her saying, the demonic voice saying, "Dreams come true, Susie, dreams come true," and just split Jekyll and Hyde personality. Which, Chapter 4 gave us a big, humongous whooping. From the audio that Susie hands us in Chapter 4, not when she talks, through the audio log, it is very clear to me. That was my first big smack in the face. That Alice in Chapter 3 is just Susie. Allison Pendle is still somewhere else.
Shouldn't have been so surprising. We've literally been walking through halls of dismembered Boris's, for months.
Alright, so, yeah, I should probably mention this to you. I ran into that same situation with the dead Boris's and Bori thing. I ran into that situation with my theory. That's not something that is bad about this theory. I've mentioned everything else. I'm just pointing that out at this point.
Now, the first big reveal way back in Chapter 1 is the dead Boris. A big moment of Chapter 3 is dedicated to escort missioning a Boris through a swamp of dead Bori. And yet, all of a sudden, we're like, whoa, there are 2 Alices? How is that possible?
I literally just got them explaining that, Matt. Hopefully you take some of your time and look at this video, because if you do your research, which is a thing that he really doesn't do, I'll definitely explain it, but I'll just keep it there for now. If you do your research before you make a theory, you not only see what's out there, but what other people thought of the topic. You can take one idea and put another spin on it, but that's a whole other story. He's stating that everybody else that thought that Allison Pendle and Susie Campbell were that one Alice are just plain idiots, which at this pointless like a lot of people. Wow.
Confirms for us is that the ink machine is able to produce the same character multiple times. And as Alice mentions in chapter 3, not only is the machine producing multiples of the same character, but it also does it at varying levels of quality.
Not gonna argue, because that is a true point.
So now let's take a closer look at our two Alices to see what we can learn.
All right.
Chapter 3's Alice clearly has something wrong with her. Her face is half melted off, she talks with some kind of weird echoey voice, and oh yeah, the homicidal rage. This Alice refers to herself as Susie, meaning that she, at one point, was Susie.
Now, he is mentioning something that could counter what I mentioned earlier, but a lot of people were stating that the heartbroken version of Alice Angel's voice was Susie Campbell, and the demonic version, overtaking version, was Allison Pendle. So it could have been, and assuming that it's that demonic version, that seducing one, that states dreams come true, Susie, dreams come true, it sounds as if Allison's like, alright, both of us are now stuck in this thing. You wanted to be Alice, and dreams do come true. Which, unless your dream was to go by Alice straight through the back, which I don't think was her dream, then I guess dreams do come true, I guess.
Campbell, Alice Angel's original voice actress. Spoiler alert, Susie! They don't. Unless, of course, your dream was getting run through the chest by a Kill la Kill style scissor blade. Now let's look at our new Alice. If you look in the game files, Chapter 4's Angel is referred to as Allison Angel. This name is likely a reference to Allison Pendle, the voice actress who took over for Susie Campbell. This honestly goes a long way to confirm our last Bendy theory, that Joey Drew...
No, not really. Let's look back at that. And why does this thing have to start buffering? Yay.
This name is likely a reference to Allison Pendle, the voice actress who took over for Susie Campbell. This honestly goes a long way to confirm our last Bendy theory, that Joey Drew was using the ink machine to transform employees into the characters.
I've heard that theory before, and not on this channel. I've heard it before, probably before he started making Bendy theories. It's been twisted human experimentation, crazy rituals, trying to appease gods, and Joey being half flipping crazy. That ink machines turning people into characters. Bendy further supports this by stating, putting this out. It doesn't state, but think about it. If you head down to Disney World or Universal Studios, they have people dressed up in costumes of characters. Joey was probably trying to make a invention or innovation on this and state, alright, I can make the first theme park that has real life characters coming to life, and look where that got him,
But not only became the twisted form of Alice, seems to imply that good-hearted people have the potential to become perfect versions of the characters they most relate to, while those with impure souls become imperfect copies.
Well, yeah, that could be true, but you also need to take into consideration what Susie states in Chapter 3. That she'll never let the demon touch her again. So it's assuming that Bendy is basically the controller of tainted ink, and that tainted ink causes perfect copies to be imperfect. So you could consider it that way too. You have to consider everything else here, man.
Almost like the ink machine.
Sorry.
Touch the ink. Susie's biggest fear was being unremarkable and forgotten. So the machine, like some sort of dripping sepia-toned sorting hat, transformed her into something truly monstrous. A perversion of the very character that she loved. And that's not all that we learned from Susie. We also learned that a person can go through the machine multiple times and get different results.
You getting that right? That either could have been due to the machine's performance at that time, or, as you are stating here, it could be going back through trying to test it. Assuming that Susie could have been Joey's first test subject, that would make some sense. See, game theory's current style doesn't always necessarily work with Bendy, and this is what I've been trying to tell you this whole time. Look how she said that. It made me an angel. I tried replicating that, but heck of it. So, and she then states after this, she'll never let the demon touch her again. So, chances are that, it made her perfect Alice, like the one we saw, but then being touched by the ink demon allows her to be imperfect. And if she gets touched by the ink demon again, she's basically back to square one. That's why that could explain why she sends Henry out to do all of her dirty work in chapter 3.
It sounds like her first time through she was selected to be a searcher, like the ink people and ink enemies that we encounter throughout the game. Because Susie initially became one of these ink creatures, it's likely that these kinds of creatures are the ink machine's standard output for its basic employees. Much rarer, however, is the machine turning employees into the biggest stars of the Joey Drew universe, Bendy, Boris, and Alice.
The big stars, and yet you have a lot, and I'm talking a lot, of Butcher Gang members. So this is basically telling us that the Butcher Gang members aren't really as common as Boris clones, but you also have to consider this. The worker transformation theory refers to the fact that if workers are put into the ink machine and they're trying to create a 3D cartoon, whatever creature they become as, if they're not a 3D cartoon, like the lost ones are all now believed to be people that were animators. I'm also thinking some of them were part of the music department. Because, if you look at it, Sammy looks a little bit like those guys. So, he's just that skeletal ribs. Now, both Alison Pendle and Susie Campbell were both Alice's angel actresses. So, what that means is they're most likely to become Alice. And if we look through how Boris was in chapter 3, we realize that all Boris's, or Bori, could have been at one point a lot of mechanics or janitor employees, because Thomas Connor and Wally Franks could have definitely needed a lot of hands on deck. If they're considering how big the studio is, probably need a lot of hands on deck to help repair everything. So that makes sense. And according to the recent screenshot, which you have to kind of consider that too, if you look at the recent screenshot, Bendy Chapter 5, over Joe Drew's office, it shows there's a star. And it kind of seemed like he was an alter ego character, and he just wanted to be a star of the show. Bertram Piedmont also felt the same way, but, the dude became Carousel. And if you look back at some of the Bendy cartoons, it seems as if Bendy is the main point of it, the main star of those cartoons. So it makes sense that the main star of the studio would definitely be Bendy. Keep that in mind as we go through this theory.
In short, the ink machine is all about a cycle of reincarnation, and it's using humans as ink. All these instances of evil free written on the walls are the searchers.
So, I can see where you're trying to head here, but if the humans are ink, explain these points to me. Okay, because apparently I don't know. is what you're saying. You're basically trying to say here. If humans are ink, then explain this. Alright, so there's a lot of ink in the studio. For a company like the Game Theorist, let's say you're in charge of this ink machine operation, and if you're saying that humans are ink, you're basically hiring people to kill them and make them ink, and you're constantly doing that to get a lot of ink. Chances are you're gonna get sued by doing that, and that just makes things creepy, okay? In chapter 2, we're walking straight through a bunch of ink to first see Sammy Lawrence. And then we're gonna have to walk back through it to go back and collect some of the some of the switches to open up that one door in chapter 2. So you're basically stating that if humans are ink, every time we walk through ink, we're walking through a bunch of dead bodies that have been liquefied. That's what you're stating. And it all comes back to, if you're constantly hiring people to kill them, turn them into ink, explaining level 14. That has a lot, if not everything in that is ink. And then the maintenance area, there's a lot of ink in chapter 4. Chapter 5, we've been hinted at that we're going to need a boat to travel across the ink in the lower depths of the studio. Alright, so we're now going to be using a boat to travel across dead people. Alright, that makes sense. Sort of. Yeah. I see more of the humans being like a mold. Especially when you apply that as a worker transformation theory, which really shouldn't be a theory, it should be fact at this point, based on how an audio is named and other hints in the story. But yeah, if humans are ink, that's just creepy and it doesn't explain a lot of things. So basically, Sammy Lawrence is now covered with a lot of his dead essence and a lot of his dead workers. Keep that in mind, because that didn't make any sense.
Literally searching for an escape from this endless cycle of death and rebirth. And someone or something keeps putting them back through this cycle. Bendy. And that's exactly what we see the Ink Demon doing.
Alright, so, one question. You're showing footage of the new Bendy, and you just used your new ink machine. Why didn't you just update the model for Bendy to be used in your editing? You're using the Mecha Boris and Alice and Angel one. So, we might have everything up to date. You might want to fix that too. Just saying.
Ink monsters like we see him do the projectionist in chapter 4 and sending him back into the ink supply to be spat out again. Why? Because Bendy himself, I would suspect, believes that a pure-hearted, perfect Bendy output will be the one who'll be able to end this cycle and finally set all of these trapped people free. This idea of kind-hearted employees transforming into perfect versions of characters is further supported by Mecha Boris. Like Alice and Angel, Boris isn't...
Alright, so, good-hearted people. And if the next point you're going to put this up that he's going to be named as Tom in the files, and that is most likely referring to Thomas Connor. If you pay attention to all of his audio logs, he sounds as if he's not really trusting. Doesn't really sound like he's a nice person. Now, maybe, since Mike Mood voiced him, we know more about Mike Mood now, but that's just my theory.
A name in the main gameplay of the chapter, but if you dig around in the game
and you said that pure-hearted people become perfect versions of Boris's and the characters. Just based on that information, I don't think that's explanation's the case.
Find that this character is actually named Tom, a reference to Thomas Connor, the disgruntled ink machine maintenance employee.
Whoever thought that these crummy pipes could hold up under this kind of strain? There goes something about pressure I don't. Or he's some kind of idiot.
And if you're saying to yourself, who? Come on, you guys remember Tom,
I'm not asking.
right? You know, Tom, the con man, the Tomster. But in all seriousness, you really had no reason to take notice of this guy. Before Chapter 4, Thomas Connor was one of those side characters who had no real purpose in the story. He had one out-of-nowhere...
Correction. 2. I'm going to stop you there before you even head any further and have to say more. He had 2. One Chapter 3, which you're referring to, and then one Chapter 1 when Chapter 3 updated all previous chapters. Now, Wally Franks has dialogue in every single chapter. In Chapter 4, you're going to try pointing out that this Chapter 1 audio log is added with the addition of Chapter 4 along with a pipe schedule. Yeah, nice try. It just proves to us now that you don't play every chapter again after a new one's released, and you only did it when Chapter 4 is out. It's immediately never stated that these chapters were going to get big updates. You were going to fall for that again. You did, sort of. You didn't play through it when Chapter 3 came out, see how everything changed. And, if anything else had changed. You just played Chapter 3, went back through the secrets there, and that was it, as far as I know. Chapter 4, you're playing through all the other chapters again, you're playing through Chapter 4, and you're looking back at it. Yeah, do that again for me this time. Just play through every single chapter when Chapter 5 comes out. Play Chapter 5, play Chapter 4, play Chapter 3, play Chapter 2, and play Chapter 1. Here's why. Every time a new chapter is added, every single chapter before that is then updated. So Chapter 2 updated Chapter 1, Chapter 3 updated Chapters 2 and 1. Chapter 4 updated Chapters 1, 2, and 3. Chapter 5 will most likely follow suit.
Log from Chapter 3 that didn't reveal any new information. This, in turn, led me to conclude in my last Bendy theory that Wally Franks was going to be revealed as Boris in Chapter 4 because throughout the chapters, we've seen how every other major character from the audio logs has been transformed into an ink monster. So unless a new monster is introduced in Chapter 4...
Which happened, lots of times. They added Jack Fane back in Chapter 2. They added Bertram Piedmont in Chapter 4. They added the Lost Ones in Chapter 4. They added, Allison Angel in Chapter 4. They added Brute Boris in Chapter 4. They added Tom in Chapter 4. They added Lacey Benton in Chapter 4. There's a lot more. I could go on, but the gist is, and immediately stated this himself when he was talking about Chapter 3 behind the scenes. Bendy has a growing cast of human characters and non-human characters. So making that statement, just apparently you didn't listen, okay? This is why doing your research comes in handy when you're doing a theory like this. That way you have other things to listen to, okay?
Which is pretty late in the game's story to be introducing new characters.
I was literally just explaining that. Well, you did try concluding that, but other people beat you to that conclusion. So you can't take credit for having that conclusion as your own. You kind of have to find another theory that was there before you. Once again, doing your research comes in handy. See when it's already out there.
You know it, but with the release of Chapter 4 came a bunch of updates to Chapters 1 through 3. The new remastered editions, which, if you're a theorist like me, reads instead as the retcon editions. It's moments like this that are the most telling for me as I hunt for clues, because as creators go through the process of telling their story, they tend to have a better sense of where they're headed and how they actually want to tell that story as they get closer to the finish line. And so they go back and tweak a few things and add a few things to better telegraph where they're headed. And true to form, Thomas Connor suddenly became a much more prominent character, with an audio log and ink output schedule being added.
I was literally just talking about that a couple minutes ago. The audio log was already in Chapter 1. His joint conversation with Wally Franks was added in Chapter 3. It made history as we now know the relationship between those two. And it's really the only audio log that we see two characters talking to each other. And the ink output schedule is really, except for that new ink machine and everything, and the new additions off of that, only thing added to chapter 1 really. So, yeah, that point is invalid. Putting two chapters when new one updates allows you to avoid invalid points like this one.
Chapter 1 and a joint conversation with the janitor Wally Franks added into Chapter 3, which begs the question of why. My last theory concluded that Wally Franks had to be Boris. He's one of the most prominent characters in the game. He has a connection with the ink machine as evidenced by the blueprints, and the Meatly has made it clear on Twitter that despite saying time and time again that he never actually made it. Wally never got out of Joey Drew Studios. We also know, based on the items you collect in Chapter 1 for the summoning ritual of the ink machine, that he's now the only character left at this point. Joey Drew has his book, Sammy is the record, Thomas Connor is now established with the wrench, Alice...
Well, not entirely. You could have had as the wrench. And the cogwheel, I believe, is going to be referring to Bertram, I think. I can't remember. Now, Sean Flynn would most likely be the Bendy plushie because that's where he worked. His evidence for Alice is an invalid point. And I'll explain.
The stuffed toy based on her chapter taking place in the toy workshop.
Not just the workshop, you know. It was in chapter level 14, level 9, level K, level P, level 11, level 9. All those levels were included in her chapter. So using that as a bit of evidence kinda is invalid, okay? That's invalid. So using Sean Flynn in that place would definitely make some sense. Plus, Will Ryan, who you showed earlier, playing chapter 4, voiced Grant Cohen, who you go into the office of in chapter 4 pretty early on in the game.
Our character Henry is the artist, so he's represented by the ink.
And he left pretty much before all this happened, so you can't really call him that. It would most likely be another animator.
Which leaves the last item as the ink machine's gear. That's Wally Franks. He's an essential character to the story, appearing in every chapter, and yet the creator of the game decided to retcon Thomas into a bigger role so that he could become Boris, despite the fact that all the signs were pointing to Wally Franks becoming...
Alright. Remember how you were literally just saying there was more than one Alice really shouldn't be surprising? Yeah, if we weren't even sure if Boris was going to survive or not, and Boris has become a fan favorite character like Wally Franks. A lot of people have stated that Wally Franks was the chapter 2 and chapter 3 Boris, who then is turned on us in chapter 4, who we then fight and defeat before Alice comes after us and gets basically Coco style scissor blade directly right up in the chest by good Alice, with Mecha Boris following right behind. So Thomas Connor, this whole point doesn't make any sense. If I was doing a Deary Sins video, then
Boris. This tells me one thing, that the Meatly has other plans for Wally, and has had other plans for Wally the entire time. It tells
he had this whole entire story in mind. Plus chapter 5 was basically being worked on whenever it could alongside chapter 4. So where's your point?
me that Wally Franks is gonna be revealed to be the Bendy monster.
Watch his audio.
I know, it seems like it should be Joey Drew. There is tons...
I've stated some evidence from the recent teasers and everything that point to Joey Drew becoming Bendy, as his greed kind of got the best of him, is what we're saying here.
Some evidence for that, but it's starting to feel like that's more and more of a misdirect by the Meatly. I mean, think about what we've learned about Joey Drew up to this point. He's selfish, he steals, and he's a liar.
When I restarted something with him, I felt like
And he makes fake motivational speeches. He doesn't believe literally anything.
more give and take. Instead, I give, and he takes.
He's not the type of person to test the ink machine on himself, which is why he gives people like Susie a special opportunity, using the ink to turn her into Alice as a test case. But our evidence isn't just a psychological analysis of the character. The limping, twisted-footed Bendy that I talked about in the last theory that
Okay, so he's gonna make a point here that's pretty invalid if you look actually at Bendy. And think the Meatly and Mike mood for adding this in to, and the whole Meatly team actually, for adding this in chapter 4, or his remastered chapter 2. You can now get a minor searcher if you don't pull the ink pump in Sammy's office, head back to spawn. Then you can take that all the way, pull it back to the office, pull the pump, take that thing all the way to you, where Sammy knocks you out. When that happens, you can now basically glitch the game. The searchers automatically die. You don't even have to kill them. You just use the axe to get your way to Bendy. Bendy can't even touch you, okay? Bendy can't touch you. So you'll realize that he still has a limp. And the twisted foot really isn't what is causing that limp. If you pay attention, one looks like a regular foot and one looks like a backwards foot, and more like a hoof. And if you look at the Bendy animations, it looks like he's got 2 regular feet. Okay?
I thought connected with this shot of a wheelchair from chapter 1, it appears to be gone in the newest chapter, and in the remasters as confirmed by these animated models.
By the way, that is shown in the on YouTube, but it's not really a limp there. You have to show his running animation to completely show your point.
By the game's official team.
So
that wasn't enough. If nothing else, we know that Joey Drew sent that note from the beginning of the game. Unless he sent it right before he transformed himself, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that a Bendy monster looking like that would have the best penmanship. Now look at another change that happened in the remasters. It used to be that Bendy was summoned by pentagrams on the ground, but if you play through again, you'll notice that they're just random shapes in a circle. Pentagrams come with evil satanic connotations. This change tells me that Bendy is no longer meant to be purely a villain, but if he's Wally Franks, a man
or people are just bad at making pentagrams.
Transform, this suddenly makes sense. We also know, based on that Twitter post I mentioned earlier, that Wally doesn't escape from Joey Drew Studios, so he has to be someone in the game, and we have yet to meet him with just 1 chapter left. There's only so many people he could possibly
Or we've already met him.
From chapter 4.
Pay attention to this because he uses this as an invalid point. And I should really go do myself a favor and end this. Oh well. This is the only audio log that Wally shows to be aggressive to co-workers. Is the whole point here. Only audio log to do that. Should I mention?
Also reinforces the idea that Wally cleans up the messes of everyone else.
He's a janitor, okay?
Do with the projectionist in chapter 4, cleans up his mess by dragging his body away. In fact, if I'm right in saying that Bendy is constantly throwing people back into the ink machine in the hopes of producing a perfect Bendy, well, that's what he's doing in the context of this entire plot. He's trying to clean up after the mess Joey Drew created. But regardless of whether evil Bendy is Joey Drew or Wally Franks, one thing I can promise you is that just like there's an evil Alice Angel and a good one, there is a perfect Bendy to balance out the ink demon.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I've already heard that theory before. Super Horror Bro in December of 2017 had mentioned a pretty obscure Bendy theory, referring to the fact being that Henry could be Bendy based on a visual clue that we don't see anywhere else in the game. Okay? It's pretty far-fetched and it makes sense. The game theory's current style, it's not like FNAF where you can just instantly plug numbers into a calculator and figure stuff out. Bendy's only been out for basically a year, so not only can you not do that, but you have to make sense of everything before you try making a theory. Every point that I've mentioned here, looking back at it basically looks like we have to do the guesswork here. Which, and if anyone's been on this channel for long enough, you hear me mention Super Horror Bro and Far Charles way too much. This exact reason is why. Now, I'm gonna let him finish. There's already evidence to support this, you know.
Joey Drew Studios and all its
if you pay attention to how we kill people and how Bendy kills people, it makes sense.
Joey and Henry started this business together, and we know that Henry created one of the characters. Based on the fact that his desk has what appears to be an early version of Bendy with a no over top, it seems pretty clear that he created Bendy but got rejected by Joey. Eventually, Henry leaves the company. However, we know that Joey Drew steals characters. So he stole and tweaked the design of Bendy, leading to huge amounts of success and even its own theme park. Which begs the question then, what would lead Susie to say this?
Her characters are tougher than I thought. For a moment there, I thought I was stuck with a dragon.
Why would Joey, despite all this success, be poor? Well, it's because of Henry. We know that Henry did something to the studio or to these characters based on this line in Chapter 3.
I know who you are, and I know why you're here.
I'm thinking Henry sued the company for stealing his character. Or, perhaps based on the poison ink that he's represented by in that opening ritual, is the one who created and sent the ink machine in the first place, all in the name of sabotaging the man who stole his character. It was his OC, Do Not Steal.
Yeah. If that point's true, wouldn't have Henry recognized the ink machine when he pulled it up in Chapter 1? We don't get any audio as if he remembers it.
But then someone did. Joey Drew stole his OC, and we online know that that's unforgivable. So Joey invited him back 30 years later to see the ruins of their business, forcing Henry to face what he did. Joey approaches Henry, forces him into the ink, and everything seems lost. But then, since the ink machine clearly judges people, Henry's pure love of these characters will be the thing that ultimately allows him to emerge as perfect Bendy, overcome Joey Drew, destroy the ink machine, and set everyone else free. The end. Well, at least until 5 chapters at Bendy's 2. But hey, that's just a theory. Again.
Alright, so we're finally at the end of this theory and at the end of my rant. As I mentioned, do your research, see what's already out there. Play through the chapters again. You'll find out that a lot of the points that you've made here are invalid points. Now, as I mentioned before, the Thomas Connor audio recording, you just gotta go watch somebody replay through Chapter 1 with no commentary, with Chapter 3 updating Chapter 1, where that new motto isn't added, or model. Can't talk today. But, you can look back. It happens literally right as you fall down, and you turn around, you go ahead and hit it, listen to it, don't even do anything else. It's fine, okay? Now, a lot of his points here are really are either misconceptions or they fall into invalid points, where I've mentioned before. Just do your research, Matt, play through the chapters again, look for the secrets, see what's already out there, try to credit your theories that people have already seen before. And a good way to figure out if someone's probably already seen it, if you have an idea, search it up, okay? That's how my Born to Survive clone theory is. I didn't see anybody talking about if Boris was a survived clone, so I figured, hey, I'll probably make a theory of that. It was just a question that I just made it with theory. My big flaw, though, was to put it in your style. The style you currently have doesn't work necessarily for all Bendy. It doesn't work for literally everything, okay? As I mentioned before, Bendy, you have to go ahead and make sense of it before you even try to make a theory out of it. And I don't know where you've gone here. So if you just pay attention to everything I've said in this video, and you avoid all the potholes that I've put there, and you change your strategy up, because the game's your strategy that it's known for works in some areas, like, and I'm gonna pull it up, hopefully anyway. All the way, your Dust to Disney one, your Dust to Disney theory, that would be an area where your game theory strategy works. Something like this, plus everything else that you've mentioned, it won't work. So keep that in mind. And now I'm finally done with all this ranting. By the way, this isn't the only theory type of theory that's fallen into this trap, the gravity falls theory, it was stated that that's already been thought of. Which I said, do your research and you'll outsmart that pothole. Then, your current Disney princess theories are falling into this exact same trap. So, change, see what's already out there. A lot of people are saying the Super and Coen Brothers already covered something on that topic. So, look at it, see what they have. See, maybe if you try to put your own spin onto it. And your misconceptions, if you make them and you keep repeating them, there is a saying that says, if you repeat a lie long enough and often and long enough, it will be accepted as fact or true. And I feel as if that's what happened when you stated that Wally is Bendy with your invalid evidence. So keep that in mind, okay? Just definitely keep that in mind. I'm finally done with this rant, and I'll let you guys go on your day. Woo! Just hopefully take my advice to heart, okay? See you guys in the next video.